AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. That's right.
Hour 3, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Pluckers. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
Musso. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. 5 o'clock, quitting time. Glad you are driving home with us. If you missed Stephanie Remp earlier today, talking some NIL, Larry Holder last hour, it's all on demand at 1045espn.com, presented by Breck Golf. Very pleased to be joined now by the new LSU head baseball coach, Jay Johnson. Join us on the show. Coach, it's a pleasure. Thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing awesome. Thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely our pleasure, and glad to have you with us here. There's a ton that I want to get to, and I know you've probably been asked the same questions a million times, so I'm probably going to go a little deeper into roster and stuff like that if we can. But you mentioned in your introductory press conference that you remember watching Warren Morse's home run in 96. And that's, you go around town like everybody has that story, right? So what's yours? Where were you?
Yeah, I was waiting for a summer baseball game later that night, and it was the middle of the day. I remember it being really hot and just being inside with a couple of my buddies and thinking like, wow, Miami's going to win the national championship. And Warren had different ideas, and it's one of those, dramatic moments that LSU seemed to come up with time and time again in the 90s, and just remarkable kind of draw-dropping kind of game.
Yeah. Be prepared to tell that story for as long as you're here, which we hope is a very, very, very long time, because those stories never get old around these parts. I do want to ask you about a little news. There's a report that Zach Arnold has entered the transfer portal. I'm curious if you had an opportunity to talk to Zach since you were hired.
Yeah, for sure. And it was more of a logistical thing than anything else. There's a chance that Zach could end up on our team next year. And it just was with the July 1st deadline, us working through some scholarship issues to try to manage this thing and get it to 11.7 and have the best team we possibly can. He wanted to explore his options, and I supported that, and looking forward to seeing how that goes and not giving up hope that he might return.
So considering your hiring came relatively late, right, in this process, how much of a logistical challenge has that created for you trying to put this roster together with, as you mentioned it, the July 1st deadline, less than 24 hours away?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a challenge, but I'm excited to do it. I've been very pleased with the response of the players. I've been communicating with them a lot. We have some things that we have to maneuver to get through the portal deadline, the Major League Baseball draft coming up, and then try to work together once we figure where the hay is in the barn to put the roster together to give us the best team we possibly can. And the players and the families understand the dynamic of what's going on right now and have been excellent in working with me. And it's been very helpful in that transition. So we got this first phase with July 1st. The second phase will be the draft. The third phase will be putting it all together once we know who we have, what's available, and go from there.
So you mentioned on Monday you had only at that point spoken face-to-face with one player. Have you been able to speak to the entire roster yet at this point?
On the phone, yes. In person, no. But it's been great all week to see a couple guys pop by. Had a couple today, very productive meetings, and sharing a little bit about our vision, them giving me some feedback of the program and thoughts, and very productive conversations with the players to get us started.
Are you able to disclose which players you have met face-to-face?
I don't know if they're okay with that, so I'm
Okay.
going to hold off for right now. But with that being said, I think, in the next, couple weeks, I think as you guys see the team formed, you'll like a lot of the guys that will be returning to LSU next year.
Yeah, I completely respect that. Jay Johnson is with us. I'd also like to ask, I know you can't speak about potential transfers and players specifically, but it is newsworthy that one of your players at Arizona, Jacob Berry, has entered the transfer portal. I can't ask you, obviously, specifically about a player, but maybe philosophy. Obviously, with the transfer rules now, with guys being immediately eligible, it's fundamentally changed. It has to have fundamentally changed the way coaches go about building a roster. So what is your thought on the approach to adding transfers to a roster?
Throughout my coaching career, we definitely have used it at every place. We will definitely use it at LSU. I think finding the right fit is really important. And it's really important here when you consider what players you have, what your strengths are, what your needs are, how quality is the player, and can they really, really make a significant impact. I really believe in development. I really believe in culture. I really believe in the players improving throughout their time here. So that's where we want to spend the majority of our time. There will be needs where you have to plug and fill via injury, via draft loss, all of those types of things. And I think that's where the transfer portal can and will help us.
You're roughly, maybe 72 hours into your tenure. Is there anything, it's obviously really early to ask this question, but anything that has surprised you that maybe you didn't anticipate 3 days in your first week?
No, I think I'm very aware of where I was coming, and it made me excited to come here. And the reception, the follow-up, the passion that Tiger fans have for our baseball program, this university, is special. And I'm very honored to be a part of that, and am working extremely hard to get our program exactly where we all want it to be.
Couple more minutes here with LSU head baseball coach Jay Johnson. By the way, Coach, do you anticipate practices being open to media and to fans whenever you all hit the practice field?
I think there'll be definitely some of that. I think when we inter-squad scrimmage, those will be open. I think it's good for the players to get used to playing with fans in the stands and getting into the environment that we have here. We'll have some special event type things where we'll create a game-like atmosphere relative to what we're doing in those scrimmages and try to make it as game-like as possible so the players are used to that environment. And there may be a few practice days where we want it all to ourselves so we can get some things done with little and minimal distraction, but there'll always be a reason behind everything. But this is a special place. And the fact that LSU Tiger fans want to come to baseball practice, I love it. And we're going to try to help them out and get them what they want in that regard. That's
a little atypical, isn't it?
It's amazing, and I love it.
Jay Johnson's with us here. All right, a couple more. Number one, as far as putting the roster together, you mentioned the different phases, right? What about the evaluation of players? Is that something you anticipate going through fall practice, or would you like to have your roster set for fall practice?
Well, that's an interesting question right now. I think it depends on numbers, which the draft will tell us kind of where we sit and what's available to us. And I think we're probably going to go in with a little bit over of the 40 that we can have for this year. So I like the fact that there's going to be some competition. I think that breeds improvement and focus and gives us options to have the best team we possibly can. So I think that's to be determined in terms of how the draft shakes out, in terms of some decisions some guys make relative to the draft, and certainly looking forward to seeing how it shakes out. We got a lot of work to do before we get to August 23rd, the first day of school, which will start right away. But I'm looking forward to putting the team together and putting the pieces in order for us to be the best team we can.
Can we get Ryan Theriot to be a mascot?
I don't know. That's something I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about. But if you guys feel like he's up for the job, then I'm willing to look at that.
He may not show up on time, as we learn here, having him on radio with us every Friday. There may be days where he just flakes, maybe just no-shows a game or something like that. But when he's on and he's good, he could be really good. So I think the energy would be there, the enthusiasm. I'd be for it. We could put Terrio in like one of those big 10-foot inflatable tiger mascots and let him roll through the stands. I think it could work well.
I love it. Let's do it. I'm all for it.
What's the best meal you've had so far?
Had an alligator for the first time in my life the other day for lunch with Coach Maneri. I thought that was awesome that he introduced me to that. And I don't know if it was kind of like half alligator because it was fried and it was an appetizer.
Yeah,
kind of tasted like chicken. So maybe he was easing me into it a little bit.
Next time, get it blackened. Lots of places in town you can get blackened gator. Chimes is great. Mike Anderson's Walk-Ons has blackened gator as well. Fantastic. Give that a go. Before you go, the schedule for the 2022 season. Some things are already in place. Like we know LSU is going to play in the Shriners Classic in Houston. What is your philosophy, or is your scheduling philosophy as far as midweek and then the pre-conference series?
Well, I like all of my teams to play every single game like it's the Super Bowl. And what that came from was how to build an RPI to put yourself in position to host a regional, potentially be a national seed, and host a super regional. The benefit of being in the SEC is most of your schedule is going to be played against top 50 teams. And when you're doing that, you kind of have that built-in RPI. So you have to look at the totality of what you're doing and what's best for your team in terms of improvement, in terms of development, in terms of building confidence, being challenged. And so we're going to try to find some balance relative to building an RPI and all those other factors. Obviously, we want to play at home relative to the environment that we have here for the majority of our games, and I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Hey, man, we get a series in Tucson. We'll make the trip probably out there. So maybe get a little home-and-home action, maybe a possibility. Or how about USD? We'll go to San Diego. I love the weather in San Diego. A little home-and-home action could be something. Just let it marinate for a bit, Coach. You don't have to give me an answer right now. Just let it marinate. We'll come back to you.
I will let it marinate for sure.
Jay Johnson, LSU's head baseball coach. Appreciate a couple of minutes again, Coach. Congratulations, and we'll look forward to catching up again soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you for having me on.
Our pleasure. That is Jay Johnson, LSU's new head baseball coach. A lot to digest there. We'll talk a little bit about it when we come back. Glad you're hanging out on AFR.
AFR.
Need dinner plans? Ichiban has always got you covered. Essen near Perkins. You know where they are. Voted by you best sushi and best hibachi in the Best of 225 awards for like a decade straight. So if you want the best sushi in Baton Rouge or the best hibachi, you go to Ichiban. And if you want the best ramen in Baton Rouge, you go to Boru. Authentic Japanese ramen. The latest concept from our friends at Ichiban. My buddy Patrick Wong went to New York and to Japan to learn ramen from top ramen chefs in the world. And he brought it here. It is affordable. It is fast. It is casual. It is Boru Ramen in Electric Depot on Government Street. Awesome spot for a date night, live music on the weekends, and they're attached to the Sweet Society dessert shop. So go get some Japanese ice cream as well and other Japanese delectables. Trust me, you will love it. It's Boru Ramen. Check them out in Electric Depot on Government Street.
After further review with Matt Moscona, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Presented by Plucker's Wing Bar. Open till midnight or later every night of the week, where every Monday is all-you-can-eat wings. Plucker's Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
Thanks again to new LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson for a couple of minutes with us. If you missed the interview, it's on demand at 1045espn.com. If you missed anything, AFR On Demand, presented by Breck Golf. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org. Of note, he did say Zach Arnold has entered the transfer portal. I asked him about Zach Arnold, and he said they're hopeful Zach Arnold could return, actually. Now, whether that means return to this year's team or transfer junior college, head back to LSU at some point later in his career, don't know. It sounded like the door might be open for him to return this year, depending on if they have a scholarship available. He was looking for options, as Jay Johnson said. Zach Arnold was exploring his options. When I asked about him utilizing the transfer portal, I couldn't ask him specifically about Jacob Berry, the Arizona a power hitting infielder who entered the transfer portal yesterday, you can't, as a coach, talk about a prospect specifically until they have signed with your team. Similar to recruiting, right? It is recruiting. So, but I asked him his philosophy on taking transfers, and he says, we have always taken transfers everywhere I've been and will continue to do so. It's just even more relevant now because transfers are immediately eligible. You can take Division I transfers and have them immediately eligible. It's changed the game with how you piece together a roster because you're not taking a transfer with a guy that would have to sit out a year and then be eligible. They're immediately eligible when they transfer now. I asked him about scheduling, and he said midweek games don't matter.
No, he don't.
Yeah,
do
that's what he
not
said.
what he
Musso,
said.
that's what he
No,
said.
he didn't.
It was a direct quote.
He never once said that. Not one
midweek
time.
games don't matter.
Why do you have to do this?
Check the tape, Musso.
I don't have to. I know what he said.
Check the tape, Musso.
God, you couldn't help yourself.
Said midweek games don't matter.
He didn't say that.
That's what he said. I heard him. That's what he said.
Nope.
Well, what he said was, everywhere we've been, we put together a schedule that tries to put us competitive in an RPI standpoint to where we can host a regional and super regional. He said, when you play in the SEC, none of that matters because you're already playing those games. So, midweek games don't matter, Musso.
That's more what he said, but he never said midweek games don't
Basically,
matter.
he said, expect to play a whole lot of crappy teams in the midweek.
Come on down, Brown. Let's go.
Come on.
Harvard. Come
We're
on,
ready.
Harvard.
Come on. SIU Edwardsville.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Bring the squad down.
I don't blame him, by the way, either. You're going to play home games. As it was explained to me one time, and this was a direct quote from an LSU administrator years ago, we didn't build a $40 million stadium to have it empty on the weekends. That's why they play home series there. That's why they play pre-conference home series. And you play pre-conference home series with programs that aren't going to require a return trip. But LSU has, look, they did the thing at Notre Dame. They did the home and home with Texas. It's been a while. So, this is not new box, but way back they did Long Beach
State,
did Arizona State. They've done that in the past, and I'm open to it, by the way. Like, personally, I love the Shriners deal. I love the deal in Houston. It's a professional ballpark. The teams they draw, SEC, Big 12, are awesome. So the quality of play is really high. It's a cool thing for fans to travel to. It puts you in Houston, where that's such a hotbed for recruiting. You think about a guy like Devin Fontenot from the Woodlands. You can use that as a major recruiting. I love it. I love that they do that, and I know they're not going to do it every year, but when they can do that, I'm all for it. But anyway, much appreciation to Jay Johnson. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind. The guy's been here 3 days, and he's on the media tour and trying to meet as many people as he can, and things will settle down. But it's just such a critical point right now because the transfer deadline is tomorrow, and he's trying to piece together a roster. And they did start late. This is very. Getting the job formally 3 days before the transfer deadline, that's late in the process. That you have to go through and meet all of your current players and evaluate them and watch film on them and make very quick decisions before you've even hired a staff on who you know is going to be part of your roster, who you'd like to be part of your roster, who's likely going to sign, how many spots you're going to have, how you divvy up 11.7. Like, it's a very difficult job for any coach, made even more difficult for Jay Johnson because of the compressed time frame. So that, and then the draft, we'll see how that all goes and see let the dominoes fall where they may after that. But it's after further review. Glad to have you aboard with us here. Love telling you about GMFS Mortgage and GMFSmortgage.com. Changing lives since 1999. Home buy, refi, construction loans, they do it all. But the message that I have been hammering for more than a year now and will continue to hammer is refinance your mortgage. If you're a homeowner and your rate is above a 4, my goodness, even if you're in the high 3s, it's worth the call. I told you we had a 3.75 when we bought our home. We got down into the 2s on our refi. It's incredible. Saved $400 a month on our mortgage, shaved 5 years off the life of our mortgage, skipped 2 mortgage payments. I was doing backflips, not literally because I'm a large man and I never could do backflips even on a trampoline, but figuratively speaking, I was doing backflips. And if you could literally do a backflip, you would after you chat with GMFS Mortgage. Find the local loan officer nearest you at gmfsmortgage.com. GMFS Mortgage, changing lives. So Ryan Ramczyk has his new deal with the New Orleans Saints. 5-year extension, $96 million. Congrats to him, man. Certainly well-deserved. Best right tackle in football, and he's going to be paid like it. His deal surpasses the deal that Lane Johnson got a couple of years ago with the Philadelphia Eagles. The offensive line is undeniably the biggest strength on this New Orleans Saints team. And you could take my word for it, or you could take ESPN.com's word for it. ESPN.com has put out their list. Ben Lindsay did the honors, ranking the rosters of the 32 teams in the NFL. They used the Pro Football Focus database, which assigns a rating to every player, and they compiled the cumulative average. Now, for rookies, they use their college ranking, but that's how they designated the ranking of the teams in the NFL. And so they ranked the entire rosters. I was admittedly very surprised with where New Orleans came in. Number one on the list, the best entire roster in the NFL. And again, this isn't opinion. This is based on a metric. It's just one metric, and it's not that it's the be-all, end-all, but it is an objective metric. And the best roster in the NFL they have is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The defending champs, best roster in the NFL, followed by a team that many might have assumed would have been the best roster in the NFL, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. So Bucs, number one, Chiefs, number two, courtesy of Pro Football Focus as rated here by ESPN.com. 3 is probably going to stun you as well. 3 is a team that has not had a division championship since its current iteration, which came back into the NFL in 1999, and that would be the Cleveland Browns. How about that? 3rd best roster in the entirety of the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, that according to Pro Football Focus. Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins. I mean, incredible when you think about it. Buffalo Bills, 4. New day in the NFL. When you see the Browns and the Bills with the Bucks 1, Chiefs, Browns, Bills, and then Ravens, the 5th best roster in the NFL. You might be thinking the Saints at this point would be coming somewhere along the line. Packers 6, followed by the Rams at 7, Cowboys 8. Rounding out the top 10, you got Minnesota at 9, and then the Denver Broncos at 10. Saints not even in the top 10. The Niners, which just a couple of years ago were in the Super Bowl, got hit by the injury bug a year ago. They're at 11. Washington football team, which won the East a year ago, is there at 12. The Tennessee Titans, another playoff team, at 13. You see my point? Like, we're already almost halfway through the NFL, and we haven't even gotten to the Saints. The Colts at 14, almost incredibly. At 15, the Seattle Seahawks. 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then finally, at 17, you get to the New Orleans Saints. That is stunning, isn't it? I mean, we have largely had this belief that the Saints have one of the best rosters in the NFL. They just need to answer quarterback. Now, that is a gigantic question, obviously. It is the question. But when you have everything else around them, then it makes that, it gives a little bit of a leeway to Jameis Winston taking over there under center. The biggest strength, Pro Football Focus lists as Armstead, Ramczyk, the league's top returning tackle duo. So because the Saints' bookends at tackle have been so elite, that's the biggest strength, and certainly that takes a ton of pressure off, literally, off of the quarterback who is running the offense. The X factor for 2021 they list as Jameis Winston. That is a no-brainer, obviously. Which Jameis do you get? Is he the turnover-prone Jameis? Is he the 5,000-yard passer, 33 touchdown Jameis? We'll see. But the biggest weakness that they listed was receiving depth behind Michael Thomas. And I have to tell you, for me, this was surprising. And maybe it's because I'm just conditioned watching Sean Payton teams for the last 15 years. Do you remember in 2008, this is going back, but when I remind you of this, it may ring a bell. In 2008, the Saints were playing the Packers on Monday Night Football at the Dome, and Tony Kornheiser made a comment that drew the ire of a lot of Saints fans. I was doing, not this show, but I was doing a sports radio show at the time, and I remember defending Kornheiser when he said this.
His best three receivers, Marcus Colston, Jeremy Shockey, and Reggie Bush, have all missed significant time. Colston missed 5 games. Shockey missed 3. Bush is now missing his 4th game. He's completing passes to guys they find on Bourbon Street on Thursday morning, put in a uniform, and suddenly they're catching touchdowns.
A lot of people were offended by that when Kornheiser said it. But I understood what he meant. Like, the Saints they were minus their top 3 receiving options in that season, and they didn't miss a beat. Like, that came right after Lance Moore had like an 80-yard catch and run for a touchdown. Remember, Lance Moore was an undrafted free agent who was bouncing around practice squads in Cleveland and New Orleans. He was on the Jim Haslett team in 2005, and then Sean Payton got a hold of him in 2006, and boom, 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 Lance Moore became a Saints Hall of Famer. I understand Kornheiser's point. I understood it then. It was complimentary, and he's right. It's not insulting. It wasn't meant to be insulting of the other players. It was meant to be complimentary to Drew Brees and Sean Payton and how they were able to take guys that weren't thought to be NFL stars and turn them into really productive players. When you look at it, I mean, I mentioned Lance Moore. When you look at the Saints' leading receivers under Sean Payton, Marcus Colston, of course, was a 7th-round tight end out of Hofstra who became the greatest receiver in the history of the franchise until they drafted Michael Thomas. Lance Moore was an undrafted free agent, as we mentioned. Jimmy Graham was a tight end who played 1 year of college football as a basketball player, became a Saints leading receiver and an All-Pro. Kenny Stills was a 5th-round pick. Brandon Cooks was the only 1st-round pick on this list that became the leading receiver for the Saints in the given season. I mentioned Michael Thomas was a 2nd-rounder, and last year Alvin Kamara led the Saints in receiving. He's a running back. So my point is, even when you haven't had elite-level receivers, they've always figured it out in the passing game under Sean Payton. Now, how much of that was Drew Brees? We'll get that answer this year. I just don't worry about the Saints receiving corps. I think the entirety of the NFL is sleeping on Mike Thomas. They have forgotten how much of a freak he was his first few years in the NFL and the season he had 2 years ago when he set the NFL single-season receiving record for catches. A fully healthy Mike Thomas, I'm pumped to see him back. After that, like, I think you're with the combination of Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith, Adam Troutman at tight end looking to take a next step this year. Even look, Deontay Harris last year in the playoff game against the Bears when they needed someone else to step up. He was like 7 for 7 and was a stud in that game. They're going to figure it out. And then, of course, you've got Kamara, who I haven't even mentioned. They're going to figure it out in the passing game because I have a 15-year sample size to say they're going to figure this out in the passing game. For me, it's more going to be, is this defense with so much turnover going to play at a championship level, especially in a division where you've got Tom Brady there. There's obviously a renewed injection of talent and energy into Carolina's offense. And then Atlanta, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, but they go and draft Pitts and you've still got Calvin Ridley and you've got tons of talent there in that offense. Can this Saints defense elevate its play despite all of the personnel losses that it's had? That, for me, is the biggest question with the Saints roster. Not who's going to be the number 2 behind Mike Thomas, because they just always figure that out, and they will again this year. All right, it's After Further Review. Glad you're hanging out with us here. We'll knock out a quick break. If you missed Stephanie Remp in hour number 1, there's a couple of things I want to reset there as we are about 6.5 hours away from NIL going live, and there is some breaking news there with the NCAA. We'll reset that when we come back. And Andrew Whitworth, apparently, I'm going to call it a career. You'll hear it from his own mouth when we return on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001. 752-0001. That's River City's 1 Hour Air. Time and again, you hear about great responses from our friends at River City's 1 Hour Air. I encourage you always to go read the Google reviews. This one was from Becky Thompson, a Google review, which said, Jacob was so professional and knowledgeable. I would recommend him to everyone I know. If I ever have any issues regarding my AC again, I will call and make sure he is the one to come out. Great job, 5 stars, and an A+. At River City's 1 Hour Air, they focus so much on continuing education for their technicians. So they have the latest practices and tools on their trucks. And also, they're trained to interact with you. They hire great people so you feel comfortable with who's coming into your home, and they'll always do a wonderful job. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. 752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime.
After further review with Matt Moscona, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Presented by Plucker's Wing Bar. Open till midnight or later every night of the week. Where every Monday is all-you-can-eat wings. Plucker's Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
Well, I would like to congratulate all 50 states, their legislatures, which did what the NCAA wouldn't. They moved, and it forced the NCAA's action. And as weird as it is to say it, because a lot of people here aren't going to like to hear it, it started with California. They were the first whenever their governor on LeBron's, remember LeBron's vlog, the barbershop show that he did? He signed the NIL bill a few years back. That's what really got the ball rolling to this day. And it is official now that the NCAA Division I Board of Directors have voted to approve an interim NIL policy. This is from Nicole Auerbach. Many others have it. Nicole's tweet is the first I saw, though. So what this means is that college athletes in all 50 states will be able to monetize their name, image, and likeness beginning July 1st, tomorrow. So doing so no longer violates NCAA rules. Effectively, if there is a state law, then these student athletes must abide by that state law. If there is no state law, yet, schools individually can have their own NIL rules, but it no longer violates NCAA rules per the Division I Board of Directors. All it took was the states moving. So, a democracy at its in action. We did talk in hour one with Stephanie Remp. Stephanie Remp is LSU's executive deputy AD. She's the number 2 behind Scott Woodward. She's the chief operating officer, and she is the one who has largely been in charge of directing LSU's NIL policy and discovery, et cetera. And one of the things that I asked Stephanie was about the differences between or among state legislation. Like, how different would it be in, say, Louisiana compared to Texas?
Using us in the state of Texas. So the state of Texas, their bill or law does not allow any student athlete to use marks or use their facilities for anything. So if a Texas student athlete is standing in front of a restaurant and says, I'm going to have my dinner here tonight, and tweets it out, they cannot be wearing anything Texas on them, hat, T-shirt, anything. Can't say that they're a Texas soccer player. In Louisiana, our student athletes are allowed to use marks or in facilities with permission, right? So they can't. Same situation. They're going to need to get permission to be able to wear an LSU shirt or be recognized as an LSU student athlete. And we have things in place to allow the student athletes to do that. But it also puts us in control so that we can make sure that we don't have a student athlete wearing Adidas and LSU at the same time.
Understand that LSU has a contract with Nike. So you don't want a student athlete officially representing LSU wearing Adidas gear. It makes a lot of sense. That's where there's some gray area and some sticky spots. I also asked her what LSU has been doing to educate its student athletes.
our education from them has really been more from a recruiting perspective. This is coming. Make sure you're asking, creating the relationships with our student athletes so that they know that we're here to help them, not to, make things difficult or put up barriers for them. It really is to help them. And so conversations have gone on since the fall with coaches, with our staff, with our student athletes. We've also had a small group of student athletes come together and help us. How do you guys go about building your brand? What is important to you? Would you stand in front of a bar and send out a tweet or whatever? Like understanding what they are navigating. And then we've been having these sessions. So we hired a company a year ago called Altius, and the head of Altius is with the NFLPA. I don't know if there's anybody out there that understands the issues better than him. So he's on our speed dial and has been helping us through all of this because he dealt with it with the NFL. We have a Tiger Life program, which is our student athlete engagement program that is doing a lot of education from that perspective. It's just constant, and then obviously answering questions and all of that.
And as far as student athletes, I did ask with them speaking, with LSU's administrators speaking with LSU student athletes, what the response has been from student athletes.
It's not nearly as overwhelming as I would have imagined their interest to be. I think they're curious about it. I think you might have some student athletes that are trying to test the waters with their brand to see what their brand is worth. And then we have the unique exceptions of Olivia Dunn, who is our gymnast that has more followers than anybody in the NCAA. She's had this brand since it started when she was in high school, and then she's just been a freshman here. She has 3 years left to continue to elevate her brand. She's at a level beyond most people, right? And she's going to generate literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So she's in a unique situation by herself. So a general sense from the student athletes is some curiosity, and I think some are waiting to see and waiting to hear what kind of deals there are going to be that are out there that are interested in certain athletes or certain sports. So we're just going to wait and see.
You heard Stephanie Remp there mention Olivia Dunn, LSU gymnast, who has 1.1 million Instagram followers. Olivia Dunn, just a bit ago, tweeted, NIL rules change tomorrow. Let's get to work. She is one of those that is going to immediately start generating wealth because of her name, image, and likeness. And it's going to be fascinating to watch this all play out. If you want to hear that full interview with Stephanie Remp, it's on demand at 1045espn.com. Presented by Brett Golf. Or if you'd like to watch the show, you can always go back to the Watch 1045 ESPN YouTube channel, and you can watch the show in its entirety. Whatever you miss, you can scrub through it all. It's there at 1045espn.com. So thanks to Stephanie Remp. Larry Holder was with us, talked a little about the Ryan Ramczyk contract, and then earlier this hour, new LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson was with us as well. One more thing before we break and we get to Jimmy Ott. Andrew Whitworth, who is entering his 16th NFL season, of course had a knee injury a year ago, seems to have told Chris Long on Chris Long's Greenlight podcast that this is going to be it for the longtime NFL left tackle.
You know what? I set a goal in 2013. I had a patella injury and just kind of was getting frustrated with it. And I was like, if I get through this, I was like, I want to try to play till 40. And that was just kind of like, I didn't think it was realistic or that it ever happened, but I was like, I want to try to do that. And so this year, to me, it feels like this is it. I mean, this is like I've put everything into trying to play this season and play the level I want to. And I feel like this will probably be the end. But, I mean, also all my closest friends would tell you that I've said that for about 7 straight years. So I don't know how believable it is, but it feels like it is.
He will, Andrew Whitworth will turn 40 in December. So he will check that box, provided he makes it through this season. And then we start to have the conversation about Andrew Whitworth, whether or not he's a Hall of Famer. He's got the longevity. He has the very rare feat of being an offensive lineman that has played to 40 years old. And he's played at a Pro Bowl level for an extremely long time. Is that enough to get him into the Hall of Fame? That's going to be an interesting conversation for Hall of Fame voters in years to come. But if this is it for Andrew Whitworth, we'll certainly be pulling for him here in his final year in the NFL. All right, it's after further review. We'll knock out our final break. Otter Locks to wrap up next.
AFR.
I tell you every single day, I say buy local, shop local. I want to talk about Clegg's Nursery. It's because Clegg's Nursery has supported our local economy for more than 60 years. Locally owned and operated, they have gone toe-to-toe and battled big box stores for 6 decades. And they're still here. And the reason they're still here is because they have great products. All of the plants that they keep in their full greenhouses and flowers are grown locally, so they're acclimated to South Louisiana, so they're going to last longer. And because they invest in people. They've got great horticulturists on staff that can answer all of your questions. So they've got great products, and they've got great people there at Clegg's Nursery. And they're convenient. Siega near Airline, in Denham on LA 16, Mid-City on Donmore, and then, of course, the Garden Center there on Greenwell Springs for more than 60 years. Buy local, shop local, tell them Matt sent you in to Clegg's Nursery.
After further review with Matt Moscona, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Presented by Plucker's Wing Bar. Open till midnight or later every night of the week. Where every Monday is all-you-can-eat wings. Plucker's Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
All right, wrapping up a Hump Day edition of AFR presented by Pluckers, Nicholson, and Bluebonnet Dine-In or Carryout. Great spot to watch the national championship game for college baseball. First pitch in about 10 minutes. By the way, who are we betting on tonight? Let's find out. It's time for Otter Locks.
Otter Locks.
So we turn to the one and only, the incomparable, and often incomprehensible, the Ott Father, Jimmy Ott. Otter, how are you?
I'm doing great. Let me see if I get my first pick right tonight.
All right.
Guessing what you say. You remember the two picks I gave you last night?
I know you gave us Mississippi State.
Okay.
And you gave us in basketball. Did you give us the Hawks? Did you give us the Hawks?
What was going on?
I don't remember. We had like 30 seconds.
I knew it.
At the end of the show.
I knew it. Because Trae Young was hobbled and it ruled out the
but it was the Hawks, right? Didn't you give us the Hawks?
The under.
The under. Let me be real with you, Otter. I just don't really pay attention when you come on.
I know,
I
man.
faded you so long ago that I'm just out of it. I faded you months ago, Otter, so I'm just out of it.
Listen, leave Catholic High and come to Colucci High, okay? Come on
now. Is that where Bonine's hanging out? Is he over at Colucci High? I know he ain't a killing guy.
Oh, man. Vanderbilt currently only $1.24 at Bet Rivers, $1.18 at Circa. I cannot remember Kumar Rocker in postseason play being that cheap. But you know, Mississippi State's got their pitching set up as well with Bednar and Sims. So it is set up. And the one thing, and this scares me to death. I mean, this is a good line. I mean, you got Kumar Rocker at an all-time cheap price, or you take the team that kind of, you know, they've got a legitimate home field advantage, man, home crowd advantage, I should say. And not only that, but Matt, you know, in College World Series, whether it's in Rosenblatt or TD Ameritrade, it's going to the early 90s. I mean, the great thing about it is you see some big-time Seth Etherton and Chris Benson and Kyle Peterson just get rocked, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And then you'll see Ben Saxon beat Mark Pryor. But then you'll see the 8 and 9 hitters, you know, on the all-tournament team. And, man, Vandy, 10 errors in their 6 games up there, that's not the way they play. So sometimes the big stage has a way to kind of bring out the uncharacteristic in them. I love the way Mississippi State approaches the game. I think it's real big to get Tanner Allen on the bases, man. They can't handle him. He can run at will. But it's just a stay away spot, man. What do you want? So I'm passing on that one. I do like the Clippers tonight. At a pick, at home in Game 6. So we're going with the Clippers to force a Game 7 on Friday night. And Colucci's got the Montreal Canadiens. Big price, plus $1.75. So the half. Colucci high! I think he can start his own chart of school somewhere.
Oh my God! All right, what else you got?
But, I mean,
all right, Colucci's giving. Go ahead.
I hate to say. I hate to pass on the College World. I mean, that's just a great game, man. I mean, here they are, and Rockers. You know, he's got. You know, he's rested. He's ready to go. The whole bullpen. It's going to be a great game. But, I mean, I'm pulling for State. They, you know, Vandy didn't do anything, but they certainly benefited. And not only that, but Mississippi State had a higher hill to climb because they didn't have to use up a lighter on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, I mean, I'm pulling for State to get their first natty ever.
All right, Otter. Game Time with Jimmy Ott follows us here in at City Slice, just through the North Gates. If you're not in Baton Rouge, you can listen online at 1045espn.com or the Game Time with Jimmy Ott Facebook page. Thank you, Otter.
Thank you, Matt.
We'll see you, man. Have a great show. It's After Further Review. Always love telling you about Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. Let me remind you, if you go to the website at ShawBillsTire.com, there's a promotions tab at the top. If you're wondering about all the dealer specials, they're all there. Name brand tires at wholesale prices. Shaw Bills has it for you. They treat you like family. They've done that for more than 50 years. Shaw Bills. We keep you rolling. Muso, what did you learn today?
Jay Johnson tried alligator for the first time the other day.
Oh, he did. He had it fried, though. Paulie, what did you learn?
Hey, look, Landrew. No idea what NIL is.
Got him.
We educated him.
What'd you learn, Matt?
Jay Johnson understands that midweek games don't matter. It's a quote. He said it. See ya.
AFR.
Let me remind you about Michelli Weighing and Measurement, Michelli.com, Michelli.com. ISO 17025 accreditation is available. But more than anything, I want to remind you about their track system. I tell you about the track system, and this is a free system. It's a free service to their customers. It offers 24/7, 365 calibration certificates online. This makes you more efficient. You can get to work quicker, so you're not waiting on the company to send you your calibration certificates. Also, everything you need there is traceable, right down to the technicians. So let's say you get audited. Boom. This has a record of everything that you need right there. If there's a recall, there's proof. It's all there for you. Free 24/7, 365. Learn more about their track system there at Michelli.com. Michelli.com for Michelli Weighing and Measurement. Learn more online. Go to there. Michelli.com.